Hi guys, Nyesha here from Nyesha Keys, and I'm coming to you with another lesson from my beginner series. This is actually the third lesson in this series, and if you haven't watched the previous two lessons, or actually the previous three videos, I highly recommend that you have a look at those. Really good videos. If you need the notes for these lessons, you can find them on my website www.nyashakeys.com. This lesson is gonna be centered on chords. Okay, how to form chords, how to build them. Not really how to use them, but mainly how to make them. Okay, a chord is two or more notes played at the same time, right? I'm gonna start with triads. Triad will give you an illustration that is actually three notes, so I'm gonna be looking at three note chords, just triads. Okay, triads. And I'm gonna look at two types. I'm gonna look at major, the major chord, and I'm gonna look at the minor chord. Okay, I'm going to mention the diminished chord just for completeness. Okay, so that we can get into the next lesson like really well. I'll just mention diminished chords, but the focus definitely is going to be on major chords and minor chords. And so there are several ways that a major chord can be formed. All right, I'm gonna show you two ways. Right, I'll show you two ways. The first way, which is my favorite, okay, both of the ways are important. It's important to know how to form chords using these two methods. There are other methods as well, but I'm just going to talk about these two methods, right? The first way is to use the major scale. Right? I love this method. Okay? The second method is to use intervals. Right? So there's the major scale approach and the intervals approach. Okay, so with the major scale approach, the first thing you need, of course, is the major scale. So I'm gonna quickly write the major scale. Let's assume we're using the C major scale. Right, so C major scale. From the previous video, you know that we use the formula tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone in order to make the major scale. All right. So if we're in C, C tone, D tone, E semitone, F tone, G tone, A tone, B semitone, C, right? And that is the major scale, right? Each of the notes of the major scale can be given a number. We established this in the previous lesson. So this will be the first note, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, or we prefer to call it the first because it's exactly the same as the first. And then it goes on as it repeats. So actually, when you have a D there, we would call this the 9, right? Which can also be called the 2. But I don't want to confuse anyone, so we're just going to be up to here, and then it's going to be... Okay. So to form a major chord, all right, to form a major chord, play the 1. I'm gonna put a plus there to show that you're playing them at the same time. 1 plus 3 plus 5 of the major scale. Right, so to form a major chord, play the 1 plus 3 plus 5 of the major scale. So let's look at this major scale. We play the 1, which is the C, okay, plus, so at the same time, because remember we're playing more than one note at the same time, the 3, which is an E, and the 5 of that major chord, major scale, sorry. That's, there we go. So then we've got 1, 3, 5, and that is a C major chord. Okay, let's try another example. B major chord. Okay, step 1, what is the B major scale? Right, so because I've done tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone in my head, then I've got B, C sharp, D sharp, E, okay, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B. Right, each of these can be given a number: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. I take the 1, the 3, and the 5, so that's B, D sharp, F sharp. I play them together, so 1 plus 3 plus 5, that will give me my B major chord. So let's do that. B, D sharp, F sharp. That's your B major chord. There we go. So remember, it's C major chord, B major chord. Alright, let's do one more. A. Alright, step 1, A major scale. Right, tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. So it starts from A, tone, that's gonna be B, tone, C sharp, semitone, D, tone, E, tone, F sharp, tone, G sharp, semitone, A. Okay, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. Sorry about that. So that's A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. Yep. And then A major chord. Okay, each of the notes in the major scale can be given a number: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. You take the 1, the 3, and the 5 of the major scale. Okay, so that is A plus, that's C sharp, and the plus is just me showing you that you're playing them at the same time. Okay, plus E will give you an A major chord. Okay, so that would be A plus C sharp plus E, A major chord. Okay, so A, C sharp plus E. Okay, so that is the first way you can actually figure out what the major chords are. All right, just take. Okay, the second way to form major chords is to use intervals. Okay, so the formula would then be intervals will be 4 semitones plus 3 semitones. Okay, so if I press a note I move a distance of 4 semitones to get the next one, and then move a distance of 3 semitones to get the second one, right? So let's do it. And then, just for interest's sake, this is called, this interval here, when you combine 4 semitones, is actually called a major third. This here is actually called a minor third. That's for, if you want to do a bit more research on that, you can add a major third plus a minor third, right? Because I haven't really talked about thirds and things like that, I'm just gonna keep it simple with number of semitones, right? Because we know what a semitone is, right? So for instance, if I'm in C, so for example, C major chord will be C, that's the first note, definitely, and then we're gonna add 3 semitones, right? And then we're gonna add, to get to this note, and then we're gonna add, sorry, that's supposed to be 4, so that 4 semitones, and then we're gonna add 3 semitones to get to the other one, right? So let's do that. C, then 4 semitones, 1 2 3 4, and then 3 semitones, 1 2 3. Then you've got your C major chord, right? Let's try. And so with this method, you don't need to know the major scale, okay? With the previous method, you needed to know the major scale. With this one, you don't need to know it, right? So there's some pros and cons for each method. It depends which one you want to use. I personally prefer the first method. However, there are some advantages of the second method, and that's why I know it, and that's why I use it sometimes, okay? So it's a good method to know, okay? Just say, okay, so A, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3, A major, okay? B, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3, B major. All right. So we have looked at major chords, and how to build them. The second thing we're gonna look at are minor chords and how to build them, right? Now, there are several ways of building minor chords. I'm gonna look at 2 ways, but I'm gonna tell you of 3 ways, okay? So the 3 ways I'm gonna tell you about, the first one is using the minor scale, right? Second one is using the major scale, and the third one is using intervals, right? There are other ways of building the chords, but these are the 3 methods I'm going to mention, right? I'm not going to look at this method here for now, the reason being that we haven't looked at the minor scale, okay? So in order to use the minor scale, you need to know first how do you make the minor scale, and then from there, then you add the 1, 3, and 5 of that scale, and then you have the minor chord. So it's very similar to how you'd use it, how you're using the major scale for major chord. This time you just use a minor scale for minor chord. However, because we haven't learned how to make the minor scale, I'm not going to show you how to use the minor scale to make the minor chord. Instead, I'm going to use the major scale, which we already know, okay, and make a minor chord using the major scale, okay? C minor chord. How do we make a C minor chord? Right. Using the major scale, right? We're gonna be using the C major scale. 1, what is the major scale? All right, so C major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, okay? Each note of the scale is given a number, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 1. You take the 1. So the formula is going to be 1 plus 3 flat plus 5. So what does this mean? You take 1, you flatten the third, and then you add the fifth. Okay, so let's do it here. So you take the 1, which is the C, you flatten the third, which is E flat, because we're flattening the third, and you take the 5, which is G, right? And when you play these at the same time, you've got C minor. So you've got, right, you flatten the third, E flat, and then you've got a G. Okay, C minor. Okay, let's do another one. So let's go for E minor. Okay, how would we make an E minor chord? There's a chord, right? A chord is a combination of more than one note played at the same time. So 2 or more notes played at the same time. We've got a chord. So E minor chord would be, let's look at the E major scale. First things first, what's the E major scale? So that would be E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. Alright, so that there is the E major scale. Right. Then we take the 1, we flat the 3, and then we play the 5. So 1, actually, so let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, 1. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. 3, we flatten the 3, which means if we take G flat, G sharp, sorry, if we take G sharp and we flatten, so by flatten we mean that we're moving a semitone down. G sharp, we flatten, it becomes G. Okay, so the first one is E, G sharp flattened becomes G, B for the fifth, that would be your E minor. Okay, so let's talk about that. There we go, E minor. Okay, right, so that is using the major scale, right? Before I move to the next method, I can actually extend this method to form maybe what can be thought of as another method, right? Which is making minor chords from major chords. Okay, making minor chords from major chords. So what does that mean? For instance, if you've got a C major chord, we established that a C major chord has the following notes in it: C, E, G. Okay, we already know that it consists of 1 plus 3 plus 5. Okay, so a C minor chord, which is made from 1 plus 3 flat plus 5. Okay, if you know how to play the C major chord, you can just flatten that third and it becomes a C minor chord. So for instance, if I'm playing C major, I can just flatten this 3 and become C minor. So that would be C plus E flat plus G. So you can go from here to here. So this method works if you know how to make a major chord. You can easily make the corresponding minor chord. Right? So if you know how to make a B, for instance, we established that the B major looks like this. Okay, it's your B major. Flatten that third, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, 4, 5. So that is the third. You flat it, then you've got a B minor. Okay, All right. The other method of making a minor chord is to use intervals. Similar to the way we used intervals to make major chords, this would be using a certain number of semitones and tones, right? So to make a minor chord, we would use 3 semitones plus 4 semitones, right? Remember in the previous, when we were making major chords, it was 4 semitones plus 3 semitones. This time it's 3 semitones plus 4 semitones. So in this case, the actual order, here we start with 3 and then 4. In major we started with 4 and then 3. Okay, the order matters. Okay, so let's and then this, as I said previously, this would be called a minor third interval. This would be called a major third interval. All right, as I said, I'm not gonna look too much into intervals. It's just good to know. If you want to research, the information is there on the internet. Okay, so let's go for it. 3 semitones. So let's, for instance, let's say we're making a C minor chord. That would be 3 semitones. 1, 2, 3. That would be so we've got C and we've got E flat, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 for those 4 semitones. That would be plus G. Okay, so C, E flat, and G. Let's do B minor. Is going to be B, 3 semitones, 1, 2, 3, 4 semitones, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then that would be B plus D plus F sharp. All right, so those are major and minor chords, right? So diminished, written usually as DIM for diminished, is going to be 3 semitones plus 3 semitones, right? So for instance, if I've got a B, I'm gonna use 3 semitones, 1, 2, 3, 3 semitones, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's B diminished. Actually, let me just quickly show you using the major scale, because it's not that difficult anyway. So using the major scale, it will be 1 plus 3 flat plus 5 flat. Okay, so for instance, C, let's talk about the B major scale, since we made a B diminished just now. B major scale has got a B, it's got a C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B. You take the 1, the 3, the 5, you play the 1, which is B. Actually, let's just number those. Okay, the 3, which is D sharp, you flatten it and then it becomes D. The 5, F sharp, you flatten it and it becomes F. D plus B plus D plus F, B plus D plus F, you get that B diminished. You get that B diminished. All right.